The latest. Thank you for your love and support. I appreciate you all. The date is May 26th. The location, the sovereign state of Tanzania. A high-level delegation from European Union, civilized, suited, and carrying the weight of international law, prepares to touch down in Dar es Salaam. Their mission, to investigate. Wonders they say shall never cease to happen, to verify, to sit in judgment of an African election that didn't fit their preferred outcome. But they never made it past the gate. In a move that has sent shockwave through the diplomatic corridors of the West, the Tanzania government, led by Hajia Hassan Suluhu, effectively blocked the entry of the EU subcommittee on human rights. This wasn't just a scheduled conflict. Please, if you haven't subscribed, subscribe, hit the notification and select all. This was a calculated act of geopolitical defiance. This was Tanzania saying the era of the African playground is closed. Today, we are going deep. We aren't just talking about one blocked meeting. We are talking about 500 years of paternalism, the hypocrisy of democracy assistance, and why Tanzania decision is the latest fire starting in Pan-African movement for absolute sovereignty. Look at the official reason the EU wanted in. The 2026 Tanzania elections saw President Samia Suluhu Hassan return to power with a reported 98% of the vote. To the Western mind, a 98 victory is an automatic red flag. They call it North Korean style. They call it authoritarian. They point to the internet shutdowns, the report of opposition leaders being detained, and the allegations of violence in the streets of Zanzibar and Tunduma. The EU claimed they had a moral obligation to investigate because they provide hundreds of millions of dollars in aid. They claim that because they help pay for the roads, the schools, the hospitals, they own the right to inspect the ballot boxes. But here is the question they never answer. Who gave them that right over the affairs of Africa? If an election in France is contested by protesters, as we have seen with the yellow vest, does the African Union send a military or judicial commission to Paris to verify the legitimacy of the French state? When the United States of America had people storming its own capital over election results, did Tanzania send an investigative team to Washington to ensure human rights were being upheld? The answer is a reasoning no. Because the world operates on a double standard where Africa's sovereignty is treated as a junior version of independence.
And I call on the European External Action Service not to slip back into business as usual. I will spare you the diplomatic language used in recent statements, but the tone was certainly not as clear as it should have been. Tanzania's continued pivot from the rule of law, reform and good governance demands a genuine assessment of our bilateral relationship. Colleagues, if we truly stand for democracy and human rights, we cannot stop at words. Let us use every tool at our disposal to hold those in power accountable. Tomorrow, this House will send an unmistakable message. All EU funds channeled through state-controlled entities must be frozen immediately. The European Union must not use its fund to subsidize oppression. The time to act is now. All political prisoners must be released immediately and with no conditions. Urgently required is an independent and credible investigation into all killings, abductions and enforced disappearances. The great people of Tanzania, they deserve new, free and credible elections. Thank you and free.
I'm going to be introducing bipartisan legislation with some other members that would mandate a comprehensive review of the U.S.-Tanzania relationship that will assess our current and future relationship with the country. So in light of upcoming elections in Ethiopia, Kenya, and Nigeria, I think the continent is really watching our response to how we deal with what happened in Tanzania. So if confirmed, what accountability measures and reforms would you advocate for with the government to address some of the violence and conflict around their elections?
Thank you for that question, Senator. And let me say that it was a privilege to meet with your staff last week.
Thank you.
I completely agree that the October 2025 election raises serious questions about Tanzania's future and its trajectory as a partner for the United States. I saw that a commission report last week came out saying that only about 500 people died, and I think that commission report is not fully public yet. But in any event, Tanzania must be held to account. As I said in my opening statement, this won't be swept under the rug. This will be a part of the comprehensive bilateral review that is already ongoing. I look forward to seeing and considering the legislation that you just mentioned. Human liberty is the foundation of prosperity and stability. My background in civil rights, free speech, and free association, I think, is an indicator this administration also cares about the presence of those things in the country.
But this is okay, you will check. Let me ask you a real question. Iran replied to an Israeli illegal attack by bombing Israel. Okay, it's easy to condemn Iran, as you have done time and time again. But over the last years, Israel has bombed, Syria, Lebanon, Iraq, Iran, Sudan, Yemen. Of course, Palestine is illegally occupying Palestine, parts of Syria, illegally occupying parts of Lebanon. Are you able to condemn this? Or do you say, no, I fully stand with Israeli violations of international law? Do you have these double standards, or do you adhere to international law?
Please.
Madam President, what was it? 1, 2, 3 hours ago, Thomas Tobé on behalf of the EPP was talking about the victims of communism. The only difference between us is that we never make difference between victims and victims. It should not be controversial to assert that killing, starving, mutilating and slaughtering children constitute a clear violation of international law. That is what is happening right now in Gaza, what the far-right government of Israel is doing against the children of Gaza. Make no mistake, history will judge each person that refused to act to end the ongoing genocide in Gaza. Hate is not the opposite of peace. Apathy is. Apathy equals complicity. Those who don't want to be complicit to the genocide on the Palestinian people must demand suspension of the EU-Israeli Association Agreement now.
To understand why Tanzania blocked this delegation, you have to understand the goals of the 1884 Berlin Conference. That was the last time a group of Europeans sat around a table and decided they had the authority to regulate what happens on African soil without asking a single African. For the last 60 years, foreign aid has been the modern tool of the Berlin Conference. It is colonialism by invoice. They give you $600 million, but the money comes with conditionalities. You must change your laws to suit their values. You must open your markets to their companies. You must allow their experts to roam your country and judge your culture. Tanzania, under its current leadership, is looking at this and saying the price of aid is too high if it costs the nation its dignity. They are recognizing that as long as you let a foreigner investigate your house, you are not the master of that house anymore. You are a tenant. And they are following the path of the leaders in Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso. The European Union speaks of human rights as if it is a universal natural standard, but on the front line, we see it for what it is, a political weapon used selectively. Where was this EU delegation when it came to investigating the massacre in Gaza? Where is the subcommittee on human rights when European-funded Weapons are used to suppress movement in other parts of the world that favor Western interests. Like the evidence that were brought out by the leaders in Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso. They are silent when it suits them and loud when they want to destabilize an African government that is leaning towards independence. They use the term human rights to trigger sanctions, to freeze bank accounts, and to justify regime change narrative. By blocking the delegation, Tanzania is disarming that weapon. They are saying our human rights are our responsibility, not a bargaining chip for your NGOs. Right, linked to what we are seeing in the Alliance of Sahel States, AES, Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso. For years, the West used the security and democracy narrative to keep military bases in the Sahel. But the people woke up. They saw that despite the presence of thousands of foreign troops and billions in aid, the Tigrus threat only grew. They realized that the foreign presence wasn't there to solve the problem. It was there to manage the chaos and secure the resources. Mali kicked out the French military and their media mouthed peace. Niger shut down the drone base and suspended the civilizing broadcast of RFI and France 24. Burkina Faso told the experts to pack their bags. Tanzania is now the East African front of this same battle. It is realizing that the hand that gives is always trying to choke the hand that receives. The shift we are seeing in Africa moving from beggar status to partner status. And a partner does not allow itself to be investigated by its equal. The West always threatens to cut off the funds. They are doing it now to Tanzania, threatening to freeze EU funds channeled through state entities. They think this will bring the government to its knees. But they are forgetting one thing. The world is no longer unipolar. We are now in a new world order. While the EU is busy writing strongly worded letters and trying to send investigative teams, other global players are showing up with different offers. They don't ask about your election results. They don't send human rights watch committees to your capitals to question you about anything. They build the dams, they build the railways, and they trade for their resources. Whether it is Russia, China, or the emerging powers of the BRICS, Tanzania has options. The threat of losing EU money doesn't have the same teeth it had in 1995. This is what terrifies Brussels. They are losing their leverage, and the only tool they have left is the moral high ground, which is rapidly eroding over the weight of their own double standard. Please, if you haven't subscribed, subscribe and turn on the notification and select all. We must address the internal reality. There are Tanzanians who are hurting. There are those who feel the 98% result does not represent them. There are families looking for their loved ones. But this is the crucial point. That is a Tanzania problem to be solved by Tanzanians. When a family has a dispute, they don't invite neighbors who has been trying to steal their land for decades to come in and act as the judge. True democracy cannot be imported or enforced by a European delegation. Every time the West has intervened to restore democracy in Africa, from Libya to the Ivory Coast, the result has always been more blood, more death, and less sovereignty. Tanzania is choosing the hard part of internal resolution over the easy part of foreign intervention. what happened this week in Tanzania was a victory for the African psyche. It was a demonstration that the black man is capable of managing his own affairs, including his own mistakes and his own conflicts. The rejection of the EU delegation is a signal to every other African capital. You can say no to the aid that comes with an inspector. You can say no to being the junior partner in your own development. The front line is not just a geopolitical location in the Sahel. It is a state of mind. It is the refusal to be silent. It is the decision to protect the airways, the borders, and the ballot boxes from those who have never truly wished Africa well. Tanzania has spoken. The Sahel is watching. Africa is rising. And the world will just have to get used to it. We are the only ones that can set ourselves free. United we stand, divided we fall, and united we keep standing forever and ever. The greatest enemy of the African is mental slavery. So let's colonize ourselves from mental slavery. Let's keep sharing to educate our brothers and sisters. Together we make Africa great for ourselves and the next generations that are going to come. So that's the latest around the world. In Africa, in Tanzania.